Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Selvi, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most important and I guess the most stressful part of the MBA application process, which is putting together your school list. And a lot of applicants they think that they have figured this out early on, but the truth is a weak school list can actually undermine even the strongest application. So today I brought in Jen with us here today from Aringa, who has helped hundreds of applicants build smart strategic school list. Jen, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Excellent. Thanks, Selby, for having me. I'm excited to chat about this topic.
Of course. Okay, so Jen, a lot of applicants do come to you with a list already in their head, usually the US top 10. But what's wrong with that approach, in your
I think
opinion?
if you're just going purely on rankings, you're not going on what the school has to offer. And I think it's going to burden your applications, like in your essays. It's not going to show through in the right way of like, I'm motivated to go to this school because, and if you say because it's highly ranked, that's not enough. They want pizzazz, they want love, they want to feel special. And just because they're that top 10 is not enough. So I think your school list needs to be crafted by being drawn to that school.
And how does one figure that out? Of course, normally I feel like people are drawn to the whole rankings, right? That's what sets
Yeah.
those schools apart. But how do you know when a school is actually right for you? How do you
Yeah.
figure that out?
So it does take a bit of research. And I mean, it's well worth it. Do the due diligence. You're about to spend a lot of money on an MBA program. So you want to make sure it's the right fit for you for the next year or two and has the career outcomes you're looking for. So the rankings are kind of a good spot. But if you're going to look at the rankings first, look at why they're ranked in these top spots. And it's like their employment, the student satisfaction, like you can dig into those numbers, or you can go in and start looking at, okay, I like the top 10. I want something in that area. Then go into looking at each one of these schools and start to look at their employment rates, their specializations, where they're located. Is it a city or is it like a college town or is it like New York, right? Like, what does that look like? What does cost of living look like? There's a lot of things that you want to bring in to this idea of what your school list will be.
Correct. A lot of the times, if you've noticed with applicants who work with you all, what are the main criteria that they look out for when they select their school list?
Yeah. So I would say one is going to be employment. Do they offer outcomes that align with what I'm looking for? And this is also what the AdCom is looking for too, right? Like almost what I'm telling you is a mirrored reflection of what they're looking for. So one, you want to make sure it's the right place for employment. Two, you want to make sure it's the right atmosphere. Even though Kellogg and Booth are both in Chicago, one, they have a different campus experience, and two, they have a very different student body. Kellogg is like, it's not necessarily a party school, but it's much more social compared to Booth, right? So what kind of personality are you drawn to? And those are some of the things that you're going to be looking at. Obviously, finances are the other side, right? Like, can I afford not only the program cost, but what's called cost of attendance, like being able to commute from the apartment to school. Am I going to be riding a bike or the bus, or am I going to be driving? Those types of questions. And then how much does it cost to live there? What, rent, all that stuff. So that should be factored into it. And then I think that, again, like that personality is, really big.
That makes sense. Also, if anyone who's watching this, even when the live is over, if you're super confused with which schools to apply to, feel free to add like your description in the comment section below with the school list that you're aiming for. We'd love to reach back out to you and address those queries. But yeah, when you look at a list though, Jen, and do you immediately think like this won't work? Like, what are those red flags for you?
Yeah. So a lot of the times people are like, and Selby, like people tell me this all the time. Oh, I want Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, HSW. And I'm like, okay, but why? And well, because it's Harvard, Stanford, and Wharton, it's not worth it if it's not these schools. And I'm like, well, I I support your idea of being ambitious, but I also want you to be realistic, right? The reality of getting into one of those top MBA programs is not as high. So I want you to start thinking out further of, okay, beyond this top three, like what are the other ideas here? And even if they're just like, I only want M7, like this is a red flag of, okay, I don't know if you're going to get the results that you're looking for. And this may set you back either a round or a whole year. So let's think about this a little bit further.
So it is okay to keep at least one M7 as a dream school, but not keep all of them as unless you're like a super genius. Have you had a client
Yeah.
like that where like very well that they can get into all M7?
Yeah, exactly. I think that I don't know. I think that I've seen a couple of people say that in one or two forums, or maybe even be featured on like Poets and Quants or something like that. But it's rare that somebody's getting admitted to all those same schools because they're just all so different. So it's an anomaly.
Makes sense. And how do you help those applicants who are torn between a dream school and a realistic one?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, like the biggest thing is like zoning in on the ones that are going to be the most relevant for you. So, Harvard is focused on general management and leadership. But if you're telling me you want a very specific career, that might not be the right place for you. Or if you're telling me that you really want to do something that gives back and has a social impact, then Stanford might be the better place for you. And then, if you want to be in finance, then obviously like Wharton, and these are kind of broader strokes, right? Like each one of these schools has all kinds of different employment opportunities, but this is going to help you start to take that deeper dive and decide which one. And then once we kind of decide between like these three, we can start to branch out and say like, okay, so if Stanford is what you're interested in, maybe also look at Berkeley Haas, look at Tuck, look at Yale. Like these are still top 10, top 15 MBA programs that are going to be fantastic, carry weight if you have to go back to your home country, that are going to be amazing and give you this experience and employment that you're looking for. So once we kind of find a place to dig in and say like, okay, this is what's important to you, then we start to branch out a little bit.
I see. For applicants who are international, is the approach now a little bit different? Do you look at geography as well? Like, are European schools now play the same weightage as US schools, in your opinion?
Yeah, this year I would say that the tides have changed and so many people applied to maybe not even UK European schools. They applied more purely to European schools, which means schools that don't usually get as much attention are like coming up now. And so they're going to raise in the rankings, etc. So I, think about that and think about, okay, do I want to have a backup plan of, having a European option if I decide that immigration isn't the best fit for me for the US or even for the UK?
I see. Okay. And also for students who are thinking of applying to a bit too many schools, how do you deal with that? I'm sure there are a lot of applicants who come to you and they're like, I want to apply to like 15 or 12. Well,
Yeah.
why should that be a big no-no in your opinion?
Because you're going to end up with generic applications that are going to be replicated across the gamut and get no hits. Honestly, like it's not a one approach fits all type of scenario. So if you're trying to do all those applications, I could only imagine what I've seen multiplied, right? Like these Excel sheets with like, okay, this is my answer to this. This is my answer to this. And this is how I'm going to move it from one school to the next school. Like it's going to end up being dull, very generic. Each one of these schools wants something crafted towards them. It's too much, right? Like you're getting a little too far ahead of yourself. I would focus first on let's find 5 to 8 schools that really make sense for you. And then let's see if like, is that a doable approach for round 1? If it is, then let's dig in and start. And then you have round 2 to add to that as well, right? Like, so you can see if you are or aren't getting traction and move your list up or down based on that.
When is it okay though to apply to that many schools in one round? In what situations?
I I guess like if you were to start today, if you wanted to start today for I would say that like you would have to break it up, right? Like you would definitely have to break it up between round 1 and round 2 because
Mhm.
let's say that you are the most amazing candidate ever and you got interviews to all of those schools. There's no way you could balance a full-time job at the same time with interviews. So I mean like you if you wanted to apply to 18-ish schools, you'd need to break it up into 2 different rounds to make it even feasible for writing the applications, but then also the interviews and everything that goes with it.
That makes sense. So it's have you ever had an applicant, like is there a number that you have, like, yeah, I've had this person apply
Oh,
to these schools?
I had a client that applied to 12 schools, and
Oh,
I'll say okay, so I've had 2 clients, and I'll tell you it's like the tale of 2 people, right? Like different decisions and different ways of taking advice. So honestly, like I had one client that applied to 12 schools and ended up getting into Darden, right? But like they applied to like all the like almost every single top 15 school. Um, I will say that it wasn't advised by us to do it, but they did. And there was a lot of struggle there because they were trying to accommodate so much in one one go that it just felt like we're losing what makes it special. And so so he did some of those applications on his own as well, right? So but you know it kind of ended up with like a mediocre result of I got into Darden, but his profile definitely said like closer to M7, and he was disappointed. I was like, well, you took on too much. Like I don't know how to share this any better than you can't do this and expect great results. We've had other clients that were able to apply to 12 schools over 2 rounds, and that definitely yielded a much better result. And that's actually kind of where they're at right now, deciding between, I think that they're between LBS, Oxford, AGC, and NCI. And you're like, like what a tough decision. But, and there was couple of US schools in that mix, but like they decided that was the better idea for them. So I believe that they are going to be finalizing with NCI, but, breaking up into 2 was the better call for that option. Like I want
there
to
is
apply in bulk.
there is a drawback to applying between 2 rounds, right? Because if in round one a dream school says yes and they await your response, but you're still waiting for your round two decisions as well, how do you deal with that overlap?
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, like if it's a dream school, then go for it. Drop all your other applications, pay your deposit, and be good. But usually it kind of happens in the opposite, like where we've applied to safe schools during round 1, and you're now applying to, higher ranked schools in round 2, and those schools want a deposit, right? Like they want you to, secure your seat. And so the hardest part of this is, do I pay the deposit, potentially get admitted to the top, like a higher school, but then lose, 1,000, 2,000, in some schools, $6,000 deposit. So it becomes, this little bit of like a moment, but it's a dilemma that, I feel like I usually say, go ahead and pay the deposit. And then whenever you get admitted to the other school, then you can make the tough decision. But, that's my thoughts. Some people have like totally gone for it and be like, I'm just going to decline them all and just wait and see what happens. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I always want to back up.
Oh, good Lord. Okay. Okay. Regarding someone's background, how much do you think, someone's professional background actually narrows down their school options?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that most MBAs are still open to candidates that want to make a pivot. So it doesn't have to be that like, oh, I'm an engineer, so I have to go to an engineering school. MIT is the only choice for me, right? Like you could definitely go to Stanford. You could go to Tufts. You could go to Darden. But I think it's, giving them the relevancy of the work experience that's the most important part. Each one of these schools want to curate a class. And so what do you bring that's special that nobody else in your class will have experience doing that will help you there? Where I've seen work experience be more limiting is years of work experience, not necessarily the type of work, but years or leadership, right? Like, so those are kind of like the two harder parts of your career experience to kind of solve, because we can't really make it up.
Yeah.
So, I think that it's like being able to show them why now is the right time, then so it's a different story. But I would say usually the background in the company that you come from doesn't necessarily hold you back. It's more of how you tell the story, or if you're lacking leadership or experience.
That makes sense. What's the most underrated factor applicants ignore when picking schools?
I have to say it's school fit.
Mm,
Each one of these schools has their own personality, and the way that you're going to feel that is through talking to current students. And I think that people don't put enough weight in that, and they start talking to current students when they're about to interview,
I
and
see.
you're way behind. Like, that's not the way to kind of do it, because you're missing out on making sure that this school is the right fit for you. I've had a lot of people get admitted to multiple schools, and after talking to the student said like, oh wow, like my perception changed. I thought like this was like my backup school, but it actually became my priority, and I can't wait to go there.
I see. Oh, one more question I had was like how you said that employment reports can be a big factor for choosing the schools. Finances could be another, right? In your
Hmm.
opinion, could you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so you mean cost of attendance, like
Yeah, tuition
okay.
costs and
Yeah. So that's also one of those things when you're building your list is the closer you are to safety, the more likely you are to get scholarship. So that's a huge part for people. A lot of people assume that there's full ride scholarships and that they're going to be the one to get it. Those are far and few between. They do happen, but it is far and few between. So you're looking closer to like 15, 20, 40, 60,000, right? Like that's kind of like the scale that we're on versus $250,000, right? So when you're looking at that cost of like how much the school actually costs for tuition, think about where you are in that range for potential scholarship. And a lot of the time schools are going to base that on how you enhance their class profile. So that's, is your GPAT or GRE score above average? Will it bring that up? GPA, years of work experience, like, are you in the zone? That's not exactly the biggest thing, but more of like what type of work experience or exposure you have, your extracurriculars, your leadership, that stuff is will start factoring in. And then sometimes where you're from. So I was talking to somebody from from Kazakhstan the other day, and I'm like, okay, like this is really your game, right? Like you have a strong GRE score, you're from Kazakhstan, there's like hardly anybody is applying from your country to these schools. So likely they're going to be like, I need that flag in our class. And so
that's true.
they will fight for that with scholarship to get you there. So, you can kind of gain or lose points based on that in some ways.
That's interesting. That's actually something that I would deal with too because I come from Turkmenistan. So
Yeah.
I feel like when you come from a more minor community, I
Mm-hmm.
guess these things happen. But yeah, that makes
Yes.
sense. For uh, for applicants that, or let me rephrase the question: what do applicants normally get wrong about safety schools, in your opinion?
Um, I would say that they underrate their safety schools, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. Like I would say, like a lot of people would consider Cornell like a safety school, and the community I've seen come out of that, and the people, and like how strong their network is amazing. And while it's not being in New York City, it's really close and they're able to get recruitment. They're able to, have adventures, but build this really strong bond between their classmates. I think that is one thing that people miss out on safety schools. I think that some people also misjudge what their safety school would be and say like, oh, like Tuck's my safety school. And you're like, I don't know if that's true.
But how does one choose their safety school? Like, I mean, where do they go wrong?
Yeah. So the easiest way is to start looking at that class profile I was talking about and seeing their averages and see where you fall compared to that. And when you are like hitting on all points, then that means that it's either like a target school or a safety school, right? Like, so, kind of just depends on like how much more your GMAT or GRE is. Those types of things can make it the difference between what a safety looks like. But like the more gaps that you have on like, okay, well, like the average GMAT score is 675 and I have a 635. Well, okay, so you're out of their normal range. I would call that a reach, right? Like that's like an easy starting point, but then you start trickling down the rest of the list and kind of decide what that looks like.
That makes sense. And how does a student balance the reach between target and safety schools without feeling like they're settling?
And I think that that's a really good point. I have had a lot of students that have gotten admitted to their safety school and felt like, oh, I want to leverage this to get more, scholarship dollars, those types of things. I think that sometimes people forget, like there's people behind these schools, right? And they're thinking, oh my gosh, we have this amazing candidate. So, like thinking about when you are starting this process and doing your safety school list, like, would you go there? I think that's the biggest thing is some people are like, oh, it's like, getting like an easy job interview before you go on the big one. Like some test dates or some mock applications, I guess I would term it. And so, but then, eventually they make it through the process and get admitted. And so if you would never go there, then why apply? Like that doesn't make sense. You're wasting your time and their time. There's always round two. Like if you're like, okay, I would never go to this school, but I'm going to apply as a safety. And you're like, well, that doesn't exactly make sense to me, but it's your decision. But I think that that's kind of like where people make that mistake is like they pick safety schools that don't make sense to them. They're not going to attend. So why do it?
Makes sense. Regarding timeline, like this whole topic that we're discussing, choosing the right schools, normally how long should you take to finalize the list? Or is it okay that, after finalizing it, you might pick a few more, later down the line?
Yeah. So I would say that once you have your GMAT GRE score, you're in a good place to start picking your school list. Some of the things like your story you can manipulate to make it work better or worse. But, one thing we can't necessarily, change is that they do have a range of GMAT GRE scores that, are going to be admissible and give scholarship. I think like that's the hard part is some people think, oh, like I could be the exception to the rule where I'm going to get admitted to, Harvard, Stanford, or Wharton, and I'm going to get a full ride scholarship. You're like, no, they're going to kind of be more of like, you should be thankful, right? It does happen, but I'm just saying, right? So the GMAT GRE score is a good place to kind of start with determining what your list is going to look like and then going from there. If you're planning to retake the exam, then I would say like stick in that kind of like target area to say like, okay, these schools, no matter what, I'm going to apply to them. If my score goes up, then I'm going to apply to higher schools. And if my score goes down, then I can kind of move them up to more of like, these are my stretch-ish schools.
Correct. Someone here asked, what if I get a GMAT that is way above their average but have YOE that is below average? How should I determine which is safe and which one is reach?
Yeah, good question. So that makes sense. Like of asking of like where things are like out of alignment. Yeah. So I would say that years of experience. If we're talking about a school like INSEAD, like when you look at their average, they're looking closer to like 6, 7, 8 years of work experience typically. But I've had clients with 2 years of work experience apply and get admitted. And the biggest thing that they say is prove to us. It's on you. The burden of proof is on you. Tell us why, with 2 years of experience, we should admit you and you're going to get hired after this. And so we were able to do that with that client. So I would say you can start to feel that out a little bit of like which schools would accept somebody with lower years of work experience. A good way to do that, and I'm going to plug it here, but is by going to the MBA Spotlight Fair and like talking to some of the reps when they're there and being able to kind of, in those chat rooms that they have afterwards, kind of ask some of those questions of like, is it advisable for somebody with 2 years of work experience to apply? How rare would it be? And kind of have those conversations. And when it's at that point, I usually try to say like, try to have a conversation with somebody so that you go in sure-footed with like, yep, I have 2 years of work experience, but it's not going to hold me back because I also had like started my own nonprofit while I was in college. So there's a lot of factors that can go in that make your profile make sense. But I would say the biggest thing is to talk to the schools that you're most interested in and see where they are with like leniency on years of experience.
That makes sense. All right, I guess I'll move on to the rapid fire section of our live. So I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions, Jen, and you can quickly answer them with a few words. So I'll start. One school that's consistently underrated in your opinion?
Ooh. Oh, shoot. Duke.
Okay.
It's amazing. Duke Fuqua family. Like it's like the Fuqua family. It's
Awesome.
amazing.
Most overrated factor when picking schools?
Is ranking, I would say, right? Like M7, HSW, that's not the biggest factor.
Reach, target, or safety, which do applicants get most wrong?
I would say reach.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a dream.
That is true. What's the ideal number of schools on a list?
5 to 8.
A school with an amazing culture that applicants sleep on?
So Duke, Tuck, I would also say like Cornell, like those are all right there in that same extraordinary like culture.
GPA or GMAT, which limits your list more?
I would say GMAT. We can make up for GPA.
That's true. Can you tell when someone built their list based on prestige alone?
Yes.
How?
I thought this was rapid. No, yeah, usually you can see when you ask them why these schools, it's like, well, because they're the top. And you're like, but why? And they just keep coming back to it. It's like the top school. And it's like, well, I need more.
That's true. One question every applicant should ask themselves before adding the school.
Is this school the right fit for me?
What's the fastest way to ruin a school list?
By going on rankings alone or by somebody else's predictions, right? Like I can tell you, you can tell them, anybody can tell you like, oh, you should apply to this school, and this school, but you really need to make sure they're the good fit for you. Don't just go off of somebody else's recommendation.
Makes sense. Should your list change depending on the application round?
I prefer safety or target during round 1 and then secure that admit and then go for the higher rank during round 2.
Biggest green flag you see in a well-built school list?
The schools make sense together as a group. They're pure schools. They have something that kind of makes sense between all of them.
And last, one piece of advice for someone finalizing their list right now.
Attend an MBA fair, right? That's my biggest thing is, each one of these fairs, you have the ability to see somebody in person or, online to see like what that personality is that they're emitting from themselves. And you can say like, okay, that feels like a good fit for me. And then from there, like you can start to hear the student stories and how they correlate and make more sense to who you are and what you want to do.
Awesome. Well, I think that ends our rapid fire, and that was actually a great way to maybe
Sum it
wrap
up.
up. Yeah, sum it up in a way. But Jen, any last minute words? I'll still let you speak.
Oh, you're so sweet. Okay, so I would say that like ask for advice. Like if you are really lost on the school list, ask for some advice that is going to give you direction. Don't just take everybody's word for it, but take that moment to talk to somebody and see what's going to make sense for you, and talk to the students because they're going to give you what's happening right now in the recruitment cycle. Employment reports are usually a year and a half, 2 years old. So you want to know what's happening right now in person. Talk to some current students or recent alum.
That makes sense. Well, thank you, Jen, so much. And for everybody who is watching this or is going to watch it soon, please, please, please add your questions in the comment section down below. We love to look at them and we love to answer them one by one. And once again, if you're planning to apply to business school, make sure to check out our MBA Spotlight Fair. You'll get all of the details on our website, gmaclub.com. But yeah, thank you so much, Jen, for doing this
Thanks.
with us today. Take
All right.
care.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye, Selby.